This right here is one of the wildest finishes in dirt racing history. Literally side by side, a photo finish, chaos on the last lap. You could not write a story any better. And today on the channel, we are gonna relive our $10,000 victory at the High Desert Hustle and see how things really ended up being that close. So I think all race car drivers kind of remember like what would be their biggest payday, the night that they cashed out the biggest behind the wheel. Kind of crazy to say this, I guess, because I run sprint cars, but I think before Reno, my biggest payday was also in an Outlaw Kart. We won $7,500 when we led all 50 laps at Shawnee in 2023. And I say that's crazy because running the sprint car, I've just never been able to score big on the right night, which if you can, obviously the amount goes, way, way up. But that's our goal for 2024, and that's what we're gonna be working towards. So when I think of one of the most important parts of this race, it was the first couple of laps. In order to win big shows, you gotta get into position. And with us starting sixth, that's not terrible, but it's not ideal. The fact though that I came off of turn 2, already in 4th, and then coming off of turn 4 here, I'm already in 3rd or, trying to overtake for 3rd, was massive for our chances of winning the race. My teammate Landon Brooks started out front. You could see he's immediately setting just an incredible pace. He was going 100% from the drop of the green. And myself, I was too, but I was also kind of just working on getting up to the front. Right here I'm behind Colby Copeland. We're racing really fast in the rubber. The racetrack's just gaining time. And my plan was actually to try to pass Colby sooner, but he was just fast enough to where we kind of, like I said, we're moving about the same. And Landon was just a little bit better than both of us. But in a 40-lap race, things are gonna get intense, so I wasn't really worried. So if we fast forward a couple of laps, we're now on the onboard, and here's kind of what I'm thinking in this situation. Landon's way out front, Colby and I are a little bit closer, and then we definitely had some distance between ourselves and 4th. Instead of using my stuff up here and trying to get into 2nd and then start tracking down Landon on my own, I figured that if I run some consistent laps, whether we get a caution, because it's just such a long race, you would think at some point, right, you get a yellow, or lap traffic would bunch us all up. Because with how fast we're going, we were catching lap cars at a pretty good rate. So I ended up just kind of doing that, like let's ride around here early, kind of see how things play out. As you can see, Landon's already right up behind the 69 car, the first car to put 1 lap down. And here in 3 and 4, they get together. Landon half spins, and then now all of a sudden we have a completely different race on our hands. We got 3 cars with the blanket over all of us, and I just went from 3rd to 2nd. And so now with where we're sitting, I probably could have changed my mindset. At this point, I could have been like, all right, it's really important for me to try to get out front, which would have been a good approach, even though it's early. I could tell Landon was fast. Like I said, I didn't know, maybe Colby was saving his stuff, but Landon was definitely a little bit better right out the gate. And if I could have now got to the lead, that could have gave me the opportunity to possibly run away. But that's not exactly what I was thinking. For some reason, I kind of, with how early on it was, I just wanted to stay conservative just because I knew things could change with the snap of the fingers. So Colby gets a good slider there, puts that guy a lap down. I was able to follow suit, but we weren't out of the woods yet. You can see there's probably 4 or 5 cars ahead of us that we were catching up to, and they were racing around. All of a sudden, one of them bobbles, and Landon was able to steal 2nd from me there. Like I said, a good slider by him. I kind of saw it coming and anticipated it with how we bobbled there off of turn 4. But yeah, so we're all running really hard, and I was too, don't get me wrong. I just was really trying to keep my head on a swivel and look ahead for, maybe these guys to crash in front of me, which as we get going here, we're gonna see how it plays out. So trying to get by lap cars is tough in the rubber. They're going fast. They're not going as fast as the leaders, but they're going fast enough in the right lane that you can't necessarily just drive on by. Now, right there is where Colby and Landon get together, and it basically parted the seas for the 18T, and we were able to drive by to the yellow after an 18-lap green flag run. And if we watch this back in slow-mo, it all worked out how I had bobbled the lap before to give myself enough room that when they all got together, it gave me enough reaction time, right, to get down the racetrack and get out of the way. So that whole thing was crazy, and that's kind of just how racing is. I told you I kind of had more of a conservative approach. It worked out in that situation, but the roles could have easily been reversed, and maybe it would have been better to be the guy out front ripping through lap traffic, putting cars behind you left and right. And that's the beauty of our sport. There's never really any way to know. It's just like you kind of have the dice and you roll them each time, and depending on what you pick and how you place your cards in the game is how it all ends up working out. So now moving into the last green flag run of the race, when I watch this part, I still like cringe a little bit just because I know, you know, how the race could have played out. I mean, literally was a nail biter to the end, so it could have went 50-50 either way, right? And so I just, especially watching it, I pick up on some of my mistakes and, you know, how I could have, you know, blocked from the cars behind me and just, you know, finished off my final lap, kind of brought it home a little bit easier than how we did. But as we get watching here, my car obviously had really good speed all race, and at the end, at this point, you know, there's nothing left in conservative mode. You know, maybe the first 20 you're trying to put yourself in position, but at this point when I was out front, it was go 110%. Like, you're gonna do whatever you gotta do to get the job done, and I felt like my car was moving good, but it did feel like for some reason I was not necessarily down on power. It didn't feel like I was going as fast as I was earlier, so that just meant I had to give it that little bit extra. We were catching up on lap traffic. I knew we were going to get to lap cars before the race was over. You can see, I mean, they're not necessarily just racing easy two in front of us. So get to this first car here, slide them, get them up out of the dust, and that actually helped put a little bit of distance between me and the car behind me a little bit because they had to kind of, you know, get around them too. But at the same time, I also knew I just needed to stay in the lane I was, you know, only move out to pass a lap car and just keep, you know, making the fastest laps that I could. When these two cars got racing in front of me, I actually got excited for a second because I thought if I could peel around the outside of this first one, I could almost keep him to the inside as a pick for a second because I could hear Aiden behind me. And at this point, that's where I made my first mistake. So if you look right here, I crossed the crease entering 1 and 2, and it got me all screwed up as I was trying to exit the corner. And it almost, like I said, this part, like I just cringe at. Like I got crossed over the crease. I could see Aiden's crew waving their arms at him, so I knew something was coming in the last corner. And then all of a sudden, wow. Just a crazy, maybe one of the wildest finishes in history of outlaw karts, and I guess you could say dirt racing. Let's watch the last lap here from my onboard. Like I said, cross the crease there. I could see arms being waved down the backstretch, so I knew I needed to block, and I thought I blocked okay, but obviously I just got a Hail Mary sent, and literally everything, I mean, I'm literally saying everything literally just worked out for me to, you know, I mean, there was no possible way I was going to be able to lift for that, right? You know, I didn't see it coming. I knew something was coming, but until I see a car, and somehow I just hopped the right rear, somehow didn't smoke the wall completely like we hit. It knocked his chain off. It turned me sideways enough, and then like literally wheelied across the line. Like I said, it's still, I cringe and get so excited watching it back at the same time. And then here might be the best part. You can see I throw my arm up like who won the race. I thought I lost the race. And then all of a sudden the excitement comes out on the receiver when they say 18T, I think they said 18T 517, like they announced who needed to go to the infield. And of course I could see everyone waving their arms. I could see all sorts of excitement. I feel like I also saw some people kind of like this. And so that's where like the range of my emotions in 10 seconds was nuts. I went from crossing the line feeling so disappointed because I knew immediately I thought I lost. I was like, there's no way. And then I was confused for maybe like a second when they said I won the race because I just convinced myself that I lost the race. And then it hit me, and then I just started going nuts. I was so excited because, of course, this was technically, like, I guess the biggest win of my life as far as the money side of it went. You know, anytime you win, I don't care if you win $10,000 racing shopping carts, you're gonna be excited. So I was just going nuts. This is actually a funny part here. I seen Bennett, and I think when I seen Bennett, I got even more excited. He was filming, and yeah, that's so awesome. He was excited. I could see it in his voice, or in his face. And so I just got out and I was jumping around and waving the flag and hitting my car, and gosh, that's awesome. Wow. It's cool watching, you know, especially obviously now it's still so fresh, like reliving that moment. But yeah, that's the race back from my perspective. Early on, I wanted to kind of take it easy. Things went our way to where we got in the top 3. We survived the lap traffic, and then we survived at the end as they were throwing everything they had at us, and it played out to where we won by, I think, 0.017, or maybe it was 0.17. Look at that right there, the difference. 0.179. A finish so close that you're checking where people's transponders are located, you're wanting to know exactly where the timing and scoring loop is, and like a photo doesn't even tell you necessarily who the winner was. I know that one of the infield photographers took a really good photo. The drone guy that was following around on Fast 4 Media had a photo, and just like I said, I look back at that and I still get so excited, but I'm also like cringing at the same time because I just know it was that close. Now, one of my favorite things after we win a race, especially a big one, is just hanging out afterwards with all the people close to you. You know, QRC, my family, all of our close friends. But unfortunately, because of our situation in Reno, there was a huge snowstorm that was rolling in, and like 99% of the teams had to leave that night just to make it back home. And then we were loaded up and working on getting back to Southern Oregon, and that was one of the most unfortunate parts of it all because we didn't get a chance to truly celebrate the big win. And so next in the video, I want to talk to my mom and dad and my best friend Bennett just about the last couple of laps and what it looked like from their perspectives as the building erupted as we ran side by side to the very end, almost as if we were still around the heater in Reno just talking about the big night.
Race recap. I was on the backstretch. I was watching every lap, biting my lip, and it was quite an exciting race. With about 5 to go, and Larimer was on the hot pedal. He was motor down, and I knew Tanner was maybe doing a little conserving on his tires, hitting his marks and that, and here comes Larimer. So last lap, they got together in turn 4. Didn't know who won. Had to get race monitor out because it was that close. So quite an exciting ending to a 40-lap main.
Were you refreshing your phone right away?
I was trying to refresh my phone. I thought we had won, but where I was standing on the backstretch, I had Larimer's, all their crew was up there too, and they were celebrating like they won. So I had no idea until I refreshed my phone, and I think Jimmy said the same thing. He had to look at his phone and refresh it to see who won, but then they announced that you won, and it was a good race.
So I was sitting with Carly. She and I were over in an area that I could get her to kind of watch the race because she was in a wheelchair, transferred her into crutches, and about 3 laps, 4 or 5 laps to go, I told my brother, hey, if he takes that checkered, run up, get the wheelchair, and then I'll get her down the stairs. My whole thought was just get her out on the track if we take the checkered. And of course, as I'm getting this together, there's chaos happening, and I'm looking up over this fence line and see what's going on, and honestly didn't even know if we won. I was reaching for crutches, I was reaching for my phone, looking for the race monitor and trying to hear the announcer and not really knowing, honestly. And of course race monitor said it was Tanner, but I had mixed emotions all weekend anyway. So, I mean, talk about from a low to a high. I loved the finish, obviously for the fans. I mean, if it had gone the other way, I would have loved the finish. But, the truth is you sometimes, that's just also good for the sport too. So, like I said, from lows to highs. And then sadly, we didn't get to celebrate as a group because of the weather. So, of course, we came home and had lobster dinner, Sunday night. But, look forward to all being together and having dinner with the team soon.
Yeah, so like you said, I was filming on the infield. It was weird because I felt like you were really quick. Like, you were very fast. And then out of nowhere, kind of lap traffic was coming up. So I figured, that could play a factor. But I also didn't know how many laps were left in the race. Once I saw kind of the white flag was coming out after you had crossed, I saw they were reaching for the white flag. So obviously next time by would have been it. And then Larimer, I mean, honestly, in my perspective, came out of nowhere. He was really quick. And I figured, honestly, and this is what surprised me, in 1 and 2, I felt like you were not as good in 1 and 2. You were better in 3 and 4 because it's, I don't know, was 1 and 2 there's like a tight spot or a rut?
Yeah,
if
and
you
the one time
right, you would have a good exit.
One time I kind of crossed the crease too. So like on that last lap, so I just pushed so bad in the center.
Right. So anyways, I seen that happen, and I figured he was going to cross you and square you up or kind of get a run on you on the inside going down the backstretch. But I felt like he kind of waited back behind you and then fired obviously the slide job. Once he fired it, I knew, I was like, there's no way it's not going to work unless he hits you. And I kind of figured that was going to be the intention, was to square you guys up. Because obviously you've seen, like in Red Bluff in the past, some people can fire a slide job and they know they're going to absolutely kill someone versus have an opportunity for them to race back. I thought his was definitely going to be a little rough, but I didn't think he was going to try to junk you. So it honestly was more contact than I was expecting. It's like slow motion to me. Like when you're on the infield, everything's slow motion, but when you're watching from outside, it's a lot quicker. It's kind of a cool perspective if you ever sit in the infield. But yeah, once that happened, I immediately heard the RPM spool on him, so his chain went off. And like it was weird because you were sideways facing the infield almost, and you just like looked like you dropped the clutch and like just wide open down through the rubber. And I thought at the angle you were going, he was going to get there just barely first because essentially he's going a shorter distance than you. And then once you cleared it, I didn't know what happened. It was too close to tell. I was looking around. People, I mean, the whole facility, people were going nuts in the stands. I didn't know who won at that point. And then once I seen you come out of 2 pumping your arms, I was like, okay, he won it. So, I mean, I was stoked. It was crazy. It's like if you ever watch like those crazy finishes in NASCAR where they're side by side at the line, stuff like that. It's like you don't know who won. And so to see you come out on top, like, I don't know, the emotions were crazy. Everyone was just pumped in the stands. I think everyone was kind of rooting for you to win. I know Larimer gave it his best shot, but
I had told them one thing I'd said is like I feel like I was excited, but then I saw you, and especially since obviously you were filming to come get the shot in the center, like my level went up like 10 times when I seen you, and then like we just got like so excited.
Yeah, it was like because I know when we were in Shawnee 2 years ago and you won that was the biggest payday race you've ever won. Maybe not the most prestigious race, but from this one, I think just like you said, now you've won 10 grand in a freaking Outlaw Kart, the first person to do it. In a fashion of ending like that, it was just nuts. I mean, it was really cool to see. It was a way better race than I expected. There was so much drama, obviously, with Landon and everyone early on in the race. It was very entertaining.
Well, I think it's perfect to end today's show on this note. Kids, there is not a sport out there like dirt track racing. It is truly one of the toughest things you will ever do. For me, I've put over 15 years into this sport, and I have lost way more than I've ever won. I feel like I've been knocked down more than I've been on my feet. But no matter what, as you push forward and you chase moments like we had at the High Desert Hustle, you know, a chance to rise to the occasion, a big moment, a huge win, you know, something that doesn't happen often. It's those scenarios, those situations, those moments that keep you coming back for more. I don't care what the sport puts you through as you keep digging this and that or whatever. It's those moments when you experience them, that's what you're continuing to chase, and it makes all the rest of the stuff, all the BS, all the crap, whatever, all worth it. So keep digging, keep chasing your dreams, keep chasing your goals. It may have been what most would consider a small Outlaw Kart win for myself, but for me, that is what keeps me coming back for more and hungrier than ever and wanting to be the best race car driver that I can be.